Sonic as a franchise is bigger than ever right now, so why do his spin-off games keep failing? With Sonic's recent rise in popularity, games like Sonic Frontiers have taken off in terms of both sales and fan reception. However, the spin-off games, well, they've been struggling to find a larger audience. So what's the problem? Do fans just not care about anything that isn't a mainline game? Or is Sega completely mishandling these side projects? There's a few issues I want to address because I truly love this franchise and I want to see it succeed. Sometimes that means taking a deeper look at things and criticizing them in hopes to see improvement down the line. With that being said, keep in mind that these are just my opinions. You are completely free to disagree, and by all means, I want to hear what you think in the comments. Look, it's no secret by now that many of these Sonic spin-off games released in the last few years have been considered a disappointment not only to many fans, but even Sega, as they've come out several times now stating that these games aren't meeting their expectations. One of the biggest issues that I think is plaguing the gaming industry as a whole is playing things too safe and following trends when they should be leading them. I want to start by taking a look at Sonic Superstars. It was a return to the classic formula that the franchise established in the 90s, and while I personally enjoyed a lot of this game, it has its issues. However, the biggest problem is that this game unfortunately doesn't bring much new to the table to entirely justify its existence. It's your run-of-the-mill 2D Sonic game with a fresh coat of paint at the end of the day. Sure, there's some new chaos powers implemented, although I'm willing to bet that the average player didn't find much use or enjoyment with these abilities. Then of course we have the addition of a new friend to Sonic's roster, and I truly do like Trip for her design, personality, and abilities. But there's no true innovation here. It's as if they took a look at their past games and said, yeah, those have been successful, let's just do that again. I'm sure they're not tired of it yet. I don't want to come down too hard on the game because, like I've said, I do enjoy most of it. But if you've played games like Sonic Mania or the classic Sonic games, you're not really getting a fresh experience here. And mind you, unless you catch it on sale, it is a full price $60 game. It's this sort of safe, almost lazy repetition that made me get out of playing Pokemon back when Black and White released. I'm not saying that games can't stick to a winning formula, but when I'm paying full price for a game, I want something that's going to get me excited. And a lot of Superstars unfortunately felt like a repetitious slog. But here's the sad part. I think that Sonic Superstars is the strongest spin-off that we've received in recent years, and in comparison to the other multiplayer games that we're about to talk about, I would much rather go back and replay Superstars. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I think Sonic multiplayer games are the way forward when it comes to expanding this franchise and its fanbase. It really is a brilliant idea because communities form around multiplayer games. I can recall just how much I got involved with RuneScape and Halo Reach when I was younger because of the online component. I still have friends to this day because of those games and the community game nights from them. So suffice it to say, online games can help form bonds, which in large grow games and communities. However, Sega has been going about it all wrong. The most egregious of these games has to be Sonic Rumble Party. This game is essentially Fall Guys or Stumble Guys, but Sonic themed, and if this doesn't exemplify the fact that Sega is chasing trends, not to mention chasing them way too late, I'm not sure what will. This is a genre that had a meteoric rise, but has since come crashing down. I'm sure there are those out there who still really enjoy playing these party games, but their popularity is indisputably in decline. This game also had a really weird launch window that essentially killed the little excitement that there was around it. Essentially, they had servers open in more remote parts of the world, and I believe did a rolling launch with it in order to, I guess, test the game and servers. This ended up being really stupid in my opinion, because if you're like me, you would see that this game was on like Season 13 getting exclusive skins and events, and it still wasn't available in the larger markets yet. So by the time it fully fully launched, a lot of people missed out on events and I guess skins, and it felt weird that people had already been playing this game for so long while the rest of us were locked out. But beyond being late to the party and having an odd launch, Sega is committing a cardinal sin in my book by ignoring the console market. If they truly wanted to see this game succeed and have a longer, more fruitful lifespan, this game needed to launch on PlayStation, Switch, and Xbox. I get that there are a lot of mobile and PC gamers, but I promise you, there are plenty of people who would have loved to have played this on their home console. Why it hasn't happened yet is a surprise to me, but even if they were to backtrack at some point and release it on console, I would have to wonder who would even be playing this game at that point. Since its launch, the player count for Sonic Rumble has been steadily falling just about every month, and I don't like using the Steam charts as an end-all be-all. However, it does give us a clear indication that players aren't sticking around with this game. I've played a bit of the game myself, and it's okay. Not the best thing or the worst thing I've ever played, but it's quite literally a Fall Guys clone that doesn't feel as fun or even as satisfying as what it's trying to replicate. I do like the skins in the game, they're fun, but they aren't good enough to make me want to pay for them or play the game more. It also just feels like they're desperate at this point, and if not desperate, then just making really odd decisions. Because why are we focusing on bringing the Smurfs and Godzilla skins into the game, rather than, I don't know, bringing the game to console or finding a way to really innovate and invigorate this genre? At this point, I don't see anyone really talking about this game either. No one's like, yeah, let's hop on Sonic Rumble and play a few matches. Having an active player base that's excited to play and come back is something that these multiplayer Sonic games really seem to struggle with. Even a bigger title like Sonic Racing Crossworlds is having massive drop-offs in player count despite having pretty frequent content drops to the game and having, quite frankly, an insane roster that rivals the likes of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Personally, this game never clicked with me. Whenever I hop on the game, it feels more like a grind and a chore than anything else to me. I also felt like the items were too spammy, which led to a bad multiplayer experience in my book. Mascot racing games are a dime a dozen. Heck, even Garfield has a few. It's an oversaturated genre that Sonic has been a part of for multiple games at this point. While the portal mechanic in Crossworlds is fresh and interesting, it can end up being annoying. Sometimes I'm getting into the groove of a map, and midway through, I'm just teleported to a zone that I absolutely despise. This game also doesn't really do enough in my opinion to warrant its hefty price tag. It's a $70 game for its base edition, and over $90 if you get the season pass. Honestly, I think just about everything this game tries to do, Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed does better. My gripes are just my opinion. It's not fact. So where I don't enjoy what this game offers, I do understand that others might find value in it. However, the dwindling player count and lack of sales is a clear sign that kart racers might not be the right move for Sonic, because it hasn't even been a year yet, and on Steam, the game is pulling in less than 4,000 players a month, even with new events and characters being added. Now, of course, there's probably a sizable audience on consoles that we don't have the numbers for, but the trends here do indicate that players aren't really sticking around, even if there is a more hardcore fanbase for this game. I don't think for a second that it's all doom and gloom. Sonic as a franchise is in a better place than it's possibly ever been. However, it's a fact that Rumble, Superstars, and Crossworlds are failing games that haven't met Sega's expectations when it comes to sales, and on the multiplayer side of things, it's clear that gamers aren't sticking around long term. So the question is, where do they go with Sonic spin-offs in the future in a way that they can achieve success? There's so much that they can do with this IP, but I think the first step would be to stop chasing trends, because anytime they attempt to do that, they end up joining too late and failing. Second, we need something fresh. You can't keep playing things safe and expect to succeed. To elevate the franchise to new highs, you need something the Sonic IP hasn't dipped its toes into before. We've had so many Sonic kart racers, and honestly, I don't think it's something that the majority of people are into. And let's be real, if they are into kart racers, just on brand alone, alone, most people will probably go with Mario Kart, and the sales really reflect that. Most people don't care about seeing Sonic drive a kart, they want to see him run or fight, so let's do something different. Say what you will about Sonic R or the Riders series, but those games weren't run-of-the-mill kart racers. They dared to do something unique and innovative, which is more in line with the spirit of this franchise, and I love them because they took risks and felt fresh, even if they weren't always perfect. Sonic Crossworlds in comparison feels so run-of-the-mill and sanitized in comparison. The next thing they need to do if they really want to be successful is to bring their games to consoles and PC at the same time. Sonic Rumble could have been such a bigger deal than what it is if it were on more platforms, and like I said before, if it eventually does come to more platforms, it will be far too late at this point. Finally, pricing a spin-off Sonic title should not be anywhere within the ballpark of $70 to $90. You're pricing your fans out, and we are currently in an era where there's a plethora of games out there, priced way lower, and they're offering so much more in terms of value. Now, I just have two fun ideas that I would love to see Sega attempt. Fresh ideas that could bolster the brand by bringing something new and fresh that we haven't seen from Sonic before. The first would service the online multiplayer crowd. I think a Sonic MOBA would be huge. While the genre itself isn't something new, I think there's so much the Sonic IP could do to make things fresh. You could do it top down like the Pokemon MOBA, but I think that doing a Smite type MOBA with Sonic characters would really be entertaining and bring a lot of new fans in. Sega loves pushing skins in their mobile games like Sonic Rumble, and if reasonably priced, that would work perfectly in a MOBA with a huge roster of characters. Another style of game I had been thinking of is a co-op It Takes Two split fiction style of game, where you could go on an adventure with Sonic and Tails, each having different abilities that could be used in light puzzle elements to help each other platform or fight enemies. There are so many opportunities for smaller spin-off games like this that Sonic Team isn't even thinking about, and I feel as though if they can look at the bigger picture and how much they could do with the characters that they have without just playing it safe by the numbers with games like Sonic Superstars, they can reach heights that they haven't even dreamed of. I really want to see this franchise prosper, and I want all the side projects to do well. That starts with Sega putting in the work, taking risks again, and doing right by the player. The worst thing that they could do at this point is become complacent with the success that the series is finding. If you agree or even disagree with me, I would love to hear from you. So, tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, you can join Sonic Boy, me, and a guest live for Sonic Saturday as we discuss and potentially debate the state of Sonic spin-offs. I want to hear all of your opinions on the spin-off titles or ideas you have for potential spin-off games. So, turn your notifications on and be ready for a really awesome stream. As always, I want to thank you all for watching the video. Even if we disagree, I think it's important to have these conversations in hopes to keep the franchise we love in a healthy state. With all of that said, please drop a like and hype as it really helps out the channel. I'm wishing you all the best, take care, peace.